realized that the real messiah is Deion Sanders. I've never seen mediocrity defended more in my life. I think sometimes he wishes Travis was his kid over the other kids. But anyways, like, if Steph wins another championship, is he better than LeBron?
I wouldn't be shocked. I just because it's Pat Riley, the group freak ends up in Miami.
Beyond the narrative. Beyond the narrative. Best in class, so pray for my peers. Slingshot bullet, it's clear. Your weak shots couldn't pierce through bulletproof ears. A martyr, a menace. I'm leading horses to drink and pulling teeth like I'm feeding the dentist. Beyond the narrative.
Welcome to another episode of The Crossover. Today's episode is brought to you by BTN Connect, powered by Athlete Narrative, the all-in-one recruiting platform helping athletes get seen, get signed, and get to the next level. Fellas, I'm alive.
Come on now.
I'm alive. I did a lot of reflection. It was Easter. Prayed a lot. Got to go to church. And I realized that the real messiah is Deion Sanders. I've never seen mediocrity defended more in my life than it is with him. I just got to say it, man. I just got to say it. Why are you looking at me like that?
Go ahead, Andy.
He has risen.
What's that?
He has risen.
My God, man. You know, getting a lot of slack. And it's fun. It's all good and fun and stuff like that. I went off and I've had my reservations on Deion. Listen, man, master marketer, best in the game. But he's celebrated for mediocrity. So I just had to get off my chest. I've never seen mediocrity been so celebrated like it is with his situation. Because if you put him in another situation, the SEC, or you put him in the Big Ten, that dude is under 500. And if he doesn't have the NIL portal to save his ass and he brought his kid and Travis Hunter, what would he have done at Colorado? Let's just be out with it. So let's see what he does now. His two kids are gone, and I think sometimes he wishes Travis was his kid over the other kids. But anyways, that's just my opinion. You know, I know it's not an opinion here based on this panel, but that's just my opinion. So I just have to get it off my chest again. I know everybody's coming at me. They're calling me, whatever. It's all good. But you guys are celebrating mediocrity. And if it was anybody else, you wouldn't accept it. But since it's the Messiah, you guys accept it. Any thoughts on that?
Let me give
Before
you one.
we move on?
Well, let me give you one real quick. So I was reading or going through X, and I saw one of the comments, and Deion's quote was, "If it wasn't my last name, we wouldn't even be having this conversation." And somebody responded and says, "You're 100% right.
He wouldn't even be in."
That's why your son got his jersey retired, because of the last name.
Agreed.
So it's actually, but I don't feel as emotional as you do, but I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, and the comments like, "Oh, you guys weren't talking about Colorado 2 years ago." You're right, we weren't, but now we are. He brought it to the forefront. Credit to him. I'm giving him credit. Like, he does deserve to be paid as a top 5 coach. Think about the revenue he's brought and the spotlight he's brought to that program. But let's talk about his coaching. Let's talk about what they've done on the field. What have they done? You lost in a bowl game. You got embarrassed in a bowl game. You don't beat good teams. You got embarrassed at Kansas. Okay, I can go down the list of games that you haven't won. The only game that you won and you pounded your chest was that TCU game, that first game, and you started with your whole bullshit of we're here, you didn't believe, and all this shit, and then it went south on you. What have you done?
And by the way, that TCU team had just come off a national title game and lost 90% of their starters.
Agreed.
So it's timing for everything, but you're not the only one who feels this way, Andy. You're probably in the majority.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm in the minority on this because y'all know I'm Team Prime.
I know you are.
At the end of the day, coming from Jackson State, right, and bringing that program and bringing attention to HBCUs is something that HBCUs are still benefiting from. Going to Colorado and putting them back on the map, not like they have been invisible forever, but the last 15, 20 years, maybe so. At the end of the day, Deion gets privilege because he put in work. It wasn't handed to him. It wasn't given to him, right? And he did it with his rhythm, his cadence, his sound, his swagger, his moxie.
But then what? What has he done?
Well, he's arguably the best cornerback in mankind history.
Listen, he's top 3 best player ever.
Okay.
And I'm not going to argue that. And I'm a fan of his as a player. Like, trust me, I know what he is. But this being celebrated as a coach and making him the Messiah, this is where I have a problem.
Andy, they haven't made him the Messiah.
Dude, you should see the comments.
They haven't
You should
made
see the
him-
comments.
they-
Guy could do no wrong. Come on, KD.
So you think so for me, right? You say he can't do any wrong. You feel like there's something that he's doing is wrong.
Well,
it's just the way that we're receiving it because of
so
who
let me
he
rephrase
is.
that. You're right. Not wrong, but they're celebrating him for accolades or things that haven't been accomplished yet.
Well, they're celebrating his increments of growth.
Okay, well,
Incrementally.
I guess it's a participation type trophy society that we live in now.
I have a take on the Deion situation. I think he's perfect for today's world that we live in. With everything's become WWE entertainment. I think he's perfect for that.
I think you're right.
No, I mean, I just think he's perfect for it.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders is built for this landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say what it is. He's an incredible marketing tool. I mean, he's great at that.
But is that going to result into wins on the field?
That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen. But he's going to put Colorado or whatever university he represents in the future. They're going to be in people's mouths, and that's what he does, and he's excellent at it. So I think he's from an X's and O standpoint. I mean, there's
So what's a successful season for him this year? This upcoming year, does he get a pass because he lost Shedeur and Travis
He should be a regular 9-3 guy in order to
in the Big 12, which is a weak ass conference?
He should be a 9-3.
Well, hey, they're there, Andy. I played in the Big 12.
Well, it's not the same Big 12 you played in there, buddy.
You're right.
A lot of people defected to the
right.
Big 10
You're right.
and to the SEC.
Matter of fact, Mizzou is in the SEC.
Yeah,
I dig it.
Yeah, and Texas left as well, and we can go down the list of
I mean,
teams
listen.
that have
I
left.
think a 9-3 season, even an 8-4, keeps him. That's what he should be.
How long do you
expected.
see him in Colorado? Because I don't see him. Maybe I give him a year, 2 more years before he makes his next move.
I think we're going to know a lot more come Thursday with the NFL draft.
Yeah, agreed.
I think if you ask me that question on next week, maybe I'll have a better answer for you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the trajectory for a coach? Right? It's to grow and get better. Right? Nick Saban didn't start at Alabama.
Well, I asked Nevin that because he doesn't give that same grace to Mario Cristobal, which is probably done better than Deion or equivalent to what Deion's done at Miami.
Yeah. I mean,
Am I right or wrong?
Mario, they had some growth this year.
yeah, he's had some growth and he's put in work and he's been in the game for a minute. He's gotten to the position of.
So people ask me this question all the time: Mike Norvell or Deion? Look at what Norvell did. Norvell was one decision away from being a college football playoff, and if his quarterback doesn't go down, in my opinion, they win the national championship. Look at all those guys they had on defense that are starting for NFL teams and contributing at a very high level. I think they give Michigan a game, and I think they beat Michigan. He had that in position. So you ask me, yes, the NIL in today's world can give you a situation what Florida State had. If you miss in the portal, you're bound to have a season like that, and that could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
But if you ask me at that time, because people are upset that Deion didn't get the Florida State job, what did Deion do to deserve that Florida State job? At that current moment, he never coached the Power 5 team.
At that time,
yeah, at that time.
No, at that time, maybe that wasn't.
And you
probably
couldn't miss
correct.
again. You just went through the Taggart situation. You could not miss again. So would
Big
Florida
guys.
State hire him today? Probably. That's probably their next call if Mike Norvell has another bad season. I'm not saying it's not, but to say that, who would you? I'd rather have Norvell.
One of the best.
More of a proven track record.
One of the best tweets I've seen in recent time was after the retirement jersey for Deion's son and Travis Hunter. They said that the freshman quarterback, Julian Lewis, had his jersey retired at halftime of the spring game. And that wasn't for me. I'm just the messenger. Man, I loved it.
Well, if you guys go look at Colorado's page, a kid transferred out or some, I don't know, it was a college football publication. And some kid transferred out. He went to the portal. One of their top linemen said, yeah, they should retire his jersey too. Yeah. So if you guys go look that up.
Got to be more careful.
Man.
We're going to trademark that, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, so any last sentiments before we get into our show
We're here
today?
for you, Andy.
Thanks.
We're here
man,
for
we
you.
good,
Thanks.
man.
I'm glad I'm alive.
Yeah.
May have to hire security, but that's a... I know you know a guy.
Yeah.
Or two. All right, so moving on. Miami Heat, first 10 seed to reach the playoffs. Then they face the Cavs, and they have no shot. You're absolutely right. I thought they could have had a shot. I was agreeing with my boy Ocho Cinco saying the Heat were going to come out of the East. I didn't say it out loud, but I'm like, maybe they go on another run. But they're not going on another run.
No.
This is over.
Not with this team.
Yeah.
Right. Not against the Cavaliers. Like I'm telling you, Donovan Mitchell is the most underrated All-Star in the NBA.
Is he a top 10 player?
I don't think he's top 10, maybe top 15, top 20. Just because at the end of the day, his size, right? There's limitations to his game. I think he's played in smaller markets, and so that the eyes aren't on him. Probably.
Did you guys cross paths?
We did.
Utah?
I was when I coached with the Jazz, I was Donovan's player development coach. So the thing that I love about Donovan is probably about 6'1" minus the afro. And he's got about a 6'10", 6'11" wingspan. He's really like muscular. But every time we landed in a city, there would be a Sprinter van or a town car there waiting for us, because what he would do, instead of go to the hotel and eat and slumber, he would go and get his work in. Like the guy's preparation. Nobody puts more time into film. Nobody puts more time into recovery. Nobody embraces and loves the game and commits to the game like Donovan Mitchell. And so, like, I want to give him his flowers, because that team had basically gone from, after LeBron left, to being in basketball oblivion to being the number 1, number 2 seed in the East.
You're probably, I'm going to ask you this question. He was going to bigger markets, right? The Miami Heat were in play for him, a couple other teams. Why did he choose Cleveland?
Well, I think Cleveland chose him, right? They got that deal done, right? He didn't sign there as a free agent. Am I correct?
Did he
with
get
that?
traded?
He got traded,
But he re-signed with them.
He re-signed.
Yeah, he
because you can make more. You can make more
re-signed.
money.
Staying with
Like
your own.
so, a player like Donovan Mitchell, who is a potential max player.
Right.
There's a difference between being a max player and a super max player, and that's about team retention. That team who you play for, they can pay you more than other teams, so that smaller markets have balance. They have a competitive, chance to compete with the bigger markets. And so, like, when you're a young player and you're in your prime, like, to me, I think the objective is to maximize and make as much money as you possibly can. Now, once you get past that stage, then you go, championship hunting.
Right.
Then you go try and align with different people. But I think he made the right decision by, signing the max. That team has grown. That team has evolved. And, they have a chance. I think they can make it to the conference finals. I don't think they beat the Celtics.
Yeah, Celtics look tough, man.
I love that Cleveland team. And Kenny Atkinson's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
I remember what he did with the Brooklyn Nets when they were, not expected to do anything. Mm-hmm. And they just had a bunch of marginal guys going back to the early Spencer Dinwiddie days. Mm-hmm. And Kenny Atkinson's a hell of a coach, man. I'm on Cleveland. I'm really on Cleveland. That's who I'm cheering for.
Yeah, Kenny was a good coach then. And then when he had to take a back seat and go work with Steve Kerr in Golden State, I think his basketball acumen actually grew in that, right? By being in that second seat, a lot of times gives you insight that you might not have when you're in the hot seat as a coach.
Yeah, you just
and so
observe.
I think he, not only had talent, but also I think his basketball philosophy was stretched being around Steve Kerr and the Warriors. And he's implemented that to a young team. I think J.B. Bickerstaff did a great job in Cleveland getting them to a certain level. Mm-hmm. And then I think that new voice came in, and Kenny's done a great job.
Yeah, I think it's great for the NBA that a team like Cleveland, small market like that, is in the in the mix with an OKC, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Those guys are in the mix to win a championship.
Boy, I hope they collide.
Oh man, they'll be unbelievable.
I mean, that's what I'm I'm personally that's what I'm cheering for.
So I was watching that Boston game yesterday. My God, such a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Dude, the way they move the ball, the way they move around, the way they shoot, the way they play defense. Yeah. I mean, they're on your ass.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough out, playing them in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
I'm on the Celtics because KD's on the Celtics.
Yeah.
So I just deferred to his knowledge.
Right.
But I'm cheering for Cleveland.
Right.
And Joe Mazzulla, no one talks about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just going to come in Eric Spoelstra-like.
Yeah.
And
He's
just
tough.
become a great coach.
Yeah, go look at some of his highlights from his West Virginia playing days. He was mean as a rattlesnake, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, man, like this new NBA, man, these young coaches, right? They are bold, they are equipped, and they understand, not only the game and the rhythm, the cadence, but they understand how to connect with these young fellas. Boston has a perfect mixture of young talent off the bench, starting talent, extreme talent with Tatum and Brown and Porzingis.
Leadership.
Right?
And then you got a Horford like a UD.
Horford.
And then you got old school Al Horford, and they
like
can
the
switch
Godfather.
1 through 4. They shoot 43s a game, and they shoot it at a high clip. Just analytically, even though I'm an eye test guy, the analytics say that if you shoot 43s a game and you make 40% of those, it's going to be difficult to win.
Right.
And they have that capacity.
Numbers
They have
don't
the
lie.
capacity. Yeah, they don't. They don't. All right, moving on to Golden State Rockets. Man, I started watching the beginning of that game, and the Rockets came all a ball of fire. Dylan Brooks, if you didn't know any better, is that guy. But then you start realizing he ain't that guy. I think the Rockets are in for serious trouble against this Golden State team. KD, thoughts?
Yeah, so I do agree that this is going to be like a dogfight. Like, even though the Rockets are young, they still have some veteran leadership. They have champions on that team. They are well coached. But, like, the Warriors just are a championship pedigree team. They have the resume. Jimmy has brought a different element to them. I think the score was 95-85. And so you saw like an old school 90s playoff battle, right? But I just think it's going to be difficult for them to beat Steph. Steph is arguably one of the best players of all time, maybe even one of the top 2 players of this generation. Right,
Wow.
and the impact that he's had on the way that the game is played, and so I just really feel like the Warriors have more experience, they have more depth, they have more continuity, and I just think that like the Rockets just are overmatched.
So I'm going to come out and ask it straight up.
Straight up.
Hypothetically, if Steph wins another championship, is he better than LeBron? Does he go down as this generation's best player?
Well, I'll be the first to answer. He certainly has a resume. His championship resume is, I think he's beaten LeBron twice also.
Three wins.
3
against
wins?
LeBron, yep.
I'm not going to
2
say
back-to-back
I'm not going to
MVPs.
say he's better in that conversation than LeBron, but I don't think it would be all too crazy to at least mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anybody of this generation of the pedigree of LeBron James, right? He's the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. He has the most durable body that we've ever seen to play at this level. There's guys like Robert Parrish who played a long time, right? But not at the level,
Dominance.
right, of
Dominance
LeBron
still.
James. And so, like, this is not to minimize Steph. Like, LeBron James is the greatest player of this generation. In my opinion, he's the second best player of all time behind Michael Jordan, ahead of Kobe Bryant, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So that's just my opinion, and I'm going to stick with it.
Got it. The conversation is going to start if they pull
We
this
need
off.
those conversations.
Yeah.
See, because most people can't be LeBron James. Most people are not going to be 6'8", 265 to 80 pounds, right? 200. Like LeBron, he said his weight could be anywhere from like 240 to 280.
Depending how much wine he's drinking at
Right.
the time. Yeah.
But like Steph is more relatable because like you don't have to be big. He's not the biggest. He's not the fastest.
It's
He's not the
incredible.
strongest. He's not the most athletic. But he has a superpower, and I can also say that like more people play like Steph than LeBron. I think he has had an incredible impact on the game. This is not
Incredible.
to minimize
Yeah.
Steph in any way. But like as far as greatness, like you know what I mean, King James has put in that work.
So my friends are at the younger circuit, and I think Steph has had more of an impact on that youth than LeBron has. Because you see them out there jacking shots
Oh,
up
I mean,
like
listen,
Steph.
kids are coming off the bus jacking bombs, right? I mean, it's just what it
That's
is,
Steph,
man.
that's Steph Curry.
Except there's only one Steph Curry,
Right.
Yeah.
And he's definitely changed the ideology of how the NBA. I mean, it's
He
up
changed the game.
It's run and gun, man.
Right.
I mean, the Splash Brothers in general, like that whole flow, man.
It's
Just
a beautiful
Man.
time.
See,
Yeah.
like LeBron, his game mirrors Magic Johnson, right? Like Magic Johnson was able to play the 1 through 5, do a lot of the same things that LeBron does. So that's kind of where their game images like mirrors them each other. But when you're talking about Steph, it's his own game. Like he brought this jacking shots up from 30, 35 feet. That's all him.
I feel you.
I mean,
I agree with KD in the sense
I
that
feel you.
Michael Jordan, for me, because I'm all right. So my generation, like Michael Jordan's going to always be number one, and I don't think there's any comparison. I think the conversation is who's number 3, because I don't think anyone is ahead of LeBron as a number 2.
Right.
Based on just what Katie just said.
Yeah.
His longevity of dominance.
Right.
Man, 20 years. Man.
Yeah.
Katie, you played 13 years, man. That's a long time. 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
At that
no
level.
one's discrediting,
At that level?
LeBron's career, but it is going to be a topic of conversation if they're able to pull this off. Last thing on Golden State, Jimmy Butler's playing out of his mind. Playoff Jimmy's here. It's a real thing. I was watching D Wade on his podcast talk about that Jimmy's one of the smartest offensive players he's ever been around, and UD said the same thing.
UD said he's the smartest player you've ever seen. And that's coming from someone who's seen them all.
Right.
Like, he's been in the mix, and I mean, we knew playoff Jimmy was coming.
Right.
I'm
actually secretly rooting for him, even though the way he left with Miami and all that. And I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan. I want to see him succeed.
When you believe in yourself the way he does,
Right.
you show
Bet on yourself
right now.
and
Man, the
double
lights
down.
are on, and he's here.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to strong arm your way out of situations to get to a better situation. And there's different ways to get to a resolution on things. Sometimes you can do it political. Sometimes you have no control over it. Sometimes you have to force your way out. He forced his way out. He's very cerebral. He's one of those guys, right, who came in as a defender and a role player and grew into a number 1 option. And so his experience along the way has equipped him for these kind of moments. I think one of the things that I'm worried and a little concerned about with Golden State as they progress through the playoffs is depth, right?
Depth.
Size and depth. Kuminga is a guy who is a max talent, and he's not getting any burn over there, right? And so I think they lose that young player, and they're betting on Jimmy. They're going all in right now. But that's something to watch. Watch how Kuminga reacts as he hit free agency.
Right, yeah. I think he has 0 points yesterday.
Yeah,
Did he even get in the game? I don't even think he got in the game.
He may have gotten a DMP. He's been getting DMPs.
Yeah.
I know he was hurt initially, but he's a max talent. Somebody will pay him, and you'll probably see him do like how Tracy McGrady did when he was in Toronto, where he was like, a part of the rotation, but then when he got to Orlando, he was the leading scorer in the
Next
NBA.
level. Yeah, he
right?
just
And
exploded.
Kuminga is going to be one of those guys who could potentially be an all-star.
Right.
It's just hard to fit him in with all those different pieces.
Great point.
Yeah, great point. All right, so the biggest surprise so far through these playoffs is the Timberwolves went into the Lakers and beat the Lakers pretty handily. Anthony Edwards didn't seem surprised. He knew he was going to win that game. Are the Lakers in trouble?
Yeah, I think the Lakers are in trouble in a sense because Minnesota is a good enough team that they can beat them, especially when you get the bench production and you get the role players to step up. I think Minnesota has more depth as far as like how many people can contribute in the way that they can contribute. I think they played together, even though they lost Cat, right? They still have a core group of guys who have gone to the conference finals, and they'd have a superstar player. But will I say the Lakers are in trouble? Not more so than when it started. Like those are like a 4 and 5 seed, or what are they, 3 and 6? Or
3.
3 and 6. The Lakers are not a great team. They have 2 great players, and all their role players are in question, right? And so they're a top-heavy team.
Right.
I don't think they have the depth. But as far as getting past this round, though Minnesota was able to steal that first game, I still think the Lakers win that series. They wear them down over time.
You know, if the bench for the Lakers continue to struggle the way they're struggling, they only scored 13 points and they got outscored by 43. By the Timberwolves, I don't see the Lakers winning that series.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Nev?
I look at the Lakers roster. Obviously, Luka, LeBron, can't miss it, right? That's the flash. But I don't see them as a. I can't even.
As a real contender.
Yeah, I don't
right?
see them as a real contender,
Yeah.
and I don't even know how they made a 3 seed. And that's kudos to JJ Redick for that type of coaching situation. Like, I just don't believe that they're a 3 seed.
Right.
I think they're like bottom of the basement playoff bracketing, in my opinion.
Agreed. Luka Doncic, Nico Harrison has doubled down on trading Luka. Luka just wants to move on from the situation. He's come out publicly and made some comments. Question for you guys is, do you think Mark Cuban regrets not selling the team, but selling to who he sold to? Did he see this coming for the Mavs organization?
Tough question. I would defer to KD to answer this. He's been around the game.
Right.
Yeah, I don't. From a transactional standpoint, I don't think he regrets, selling the team. Obviously, when you get into business, you want to, make a profit. He has a history of building companies and getting their value at a peak and then selling. I think where where I see some hypocrisy in it is that they didn't allow Mark Cuban to still make basketball decisions, right? When I read the Celtics were sold, Wick Grossback still gets to be on as CEO and make basketball decisions, right? And so I don't know how it was fair to Mark, to be kind of ousted from making basketball decisions because he does still own a piece of that team, right? But Wick Grossback still gets to be on as CEO for 3 years
Right.
and have a healthy transition.
Right.
And so I think there's an infrastructure issue that needs to be addressed because how is it fair for one person to be able to make basketball decisions after they sell?
I'm going to tell you my position on it. I think he regrets it. Who he sold to. Because of the connection. When you build something like the Mavericks and you bring them back from where they were and really turn it into a contender every single year and turn it into one of the elite franchises and to see overnight that it's being destroyed, you're losing sleep over that, right? Where you're like, holy crap. You're not only letting down an organization, but you're letting down a community that got behind you.
He grandfathered that era.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's like what Katie said. That's like the Jordan rules.
Yep.
But these are the Cuban rules.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And they were slighted again. You could see that there's some.
And you see in his facial expressions, he still has the seats down on the, on the floor, and you can just tell that it's bothering him.
Yeah, it's individualized and personal against him.
Agreed.
The way they win.
He's got a connection to that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
to that city.
To that city. That's his baby. And I don't think he understood that this was the route the organization was going to go in.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic was supposed to be another Nowitzki that played 15 years there and retire. And that was part of who he brought in and drafted to that team. And to see this blow up the way it's blowing up in his face, he's got to be losing sleep over it. I know it.
It's like selling a franchise and the person you sell it to moves the team.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's like bylaws.
A little insight on like my experience with Mark Cuban. So Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks were the first organization to start putting food in the visiting team's locker room. So they fed us after every game. When I did my draft workout for the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban picked me up from my hotel and took me to my workout. One night in LA, me and my wife and my folks, we were hanging out, and there was a line at the door, and Mark Cuban was walking up to the party, and he saw me. He said, "Keyon, come on." Mark Cuban is bigger than just the business of basketball. He is a man who cares and loves the game, respects the game, appreciates the game, and they stripped that away from him because he made a transaction.
Yeah.
Human relatable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Human relatable.
I see it. I see it in his emotion. Like, this is his baby, man. When you build something from the ground up, the way he built that organization and really brought it to the forefront, because the Mavericks, I mean, other than they had a couple seasons there where they made a couple playoffs before him, he really put that organization on the map in the NBA.
He did.
And to see this just overnight, really overnight, just being stripped away, and some of these decisions are being made, and Nico Harrison doubling down. And I'll read some of the statements. There's no regrets on the trade. Harrison said during the media session this week, "Part of my job is to do the best thing for the Mavericks, not only today, but also in the future. And some of the decisions I'm going to make are going to be unpopular. That's my job, and I have to stand by it." Now, is that coming from ownership and he's just being the voice piece of it? Or is this really how he feels? But man, they should just leave Luka alone. Don't have any more comments and just move on from the situation.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean,
You can tell that kid got bothered by that. Like
he broke his phone. He threw his phone. He showed the other day on an interview that when I heard the news, I broke my phone. I threw my phone. It hurt him.
Yep.
It hurt him. But here's the thing. Nico hid a little bit, right? You say he doubled down. I say he did not. I say that he threw a rock and hit his hand. Because at the end of the day, the media wasn't allowed to get footage. They only had the local media. They didn't want any recordings of those conversations.
Point. You're absolutely right.
Right? So it's like, you're saying that, you're putting it out in quotes, but like, put your name and your face on it. Like, let us see your body language. Let us read the room, right? And I think he's embarrassed about it. And I think he's doubling down as far as saying that, like, okay, When Kyrie gets back, we get a healthy AD. You know what I mean? I think we can build something.
Yeah, he's
But
deflecting.
in the interim right now, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, he's
Right.
deflecting, and that sounds like ownership or smells like ownership,
Right.
to me.
Well, somebody signs his check.
Yeah, right. Oh, he's
He's
an
not the
employer.
boss.
He's an employee.
Right.
For sure.
He ain't signing the front of the check.
Yeah, it's just a bad situation between Luka and that organization. I hate to see it, man, because you can tell this kid cares about not only the Mavericks organization, but he cares about that community.
Yeah.
He's from that community, and not born and raised, but
He became a man there.
yeah, he became a man there. And it's just like he made a comment after the Mavericks game, like, I get to sleep in my bed tonight. Like,
Yeah.
It's just tough, man. It's tough for a 25-year-old kid to process all that. He's only 25. You see him big as a man, 6'10", whatever, how big he is, and he's only 25 years old, man.
He's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah, it's just it's insane,
From the
man. He's a kid
international
at the end of the
level, I
day,
mean.
so it's just tough, man. I hate to see him in that position.
Yeah. Well, he's, sports, business is business.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
just what it is.
Yeah. So last game that I want to touch on is the Bucks, man. What a shift in that organization playing the Pacers. They got handled. Their starters only had 50 points. KD, is Giannis out?
You know what? It's tricky because he's still under contract. That is a smaller market. So usually when you have a big fish in a small pond, you don't get rid of that easily unless you can just acquire so much talent that you can rebuild in a healthy way. But yeah, I think his frustration is going to be through the roof. They need Dame back in order to be competitive. The Pacers obviously put them out of the playoffs last year. Yeah, man, it's tough for Giannis, man. Like, he's still in his prime. And he really doesn't have a legitimate chance to win another championship right now with this roster.
Yeah, they've blown that whole thing up. Go ahead, Nev.
I have for a while now thought the Greek Freak ends up in Miami, and I've thought, well, first of all, he loves Miami. He's come out and said it publicly a number of times. I've thought Kevin Durant was always going to be option one. I always thought the Greek Freak was lurking. I wouldn't be shocked because it's Pat Riley. He's not getting younger. I think just hit 80, and like he's not going out like this. And they'll be out in the next probably 2 weeks, right? And starting their off-season plans. Don't be shocked, Dame and the Greek Freak.
Right.
9 teams.
Do they have
9-team trade?
They have the pieces, yeah.
They can make it work. It's all money and contracts, and
Right.
there's going to be a massive shift coming.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
it's going to start in Milwaukee.
KD,
Both those guys gone.
I have a
there.
question for you. How much do you think Middleton not being there anymore has impacted that team?
Well-
Because I see it.
Yeah, he's proven, right?
Right.
He's an NBA champion. He was their clutch guy, right? He was the guy who, you would run a play for at the end of the game and he'll send it into overtime or he'll hit a game winner. In the locker room, veteran presence, leadership, stick-to-itiveness, calm, poised demeanor. A lot of times, man, when you take chemistry out of the team and think it's just going to continue to run, boy, you might miss the boat on that.
Right.
So I think they're really missing him quite a bit.
Yeah.
Really missing
Agreed.
him.
It's very
His
evident just
energy.
watching them, yeah.
Yeah, his energy, his swag,
that was
his
a complete
confidence.
different team.
Yeah, they're not that 60-plus win team that we remember from 2-3 years ago.
And Dame is hurt, right?
Yeah.
Dame was on the sideline, and I think, to me, one of the biggest highlights of the game is when him and, Halliburton, start jawing at each other a little bit. Like, Dame is from the Bay, so he was in Bay Area mode, and I love to see that. Obviously, when you're coming back from an injury and you're on the sideline and you see people talking shit and things like that, you're going to have something to say.
Yeah.
And so hopefully he can get back and he can be healthy, because game is a game timer.
Right,
he comes
right.
to play every opportunity he gets.
Yeah, he's a baller, no doubt about
for sure.
that. All right, so moving on to the NFL draft. It's this Thursday. We're bringing our... Listen, man, he gave me a call. He says, listen, I got a mock draft. I know I'm going to hit on this. So I said, all right, cool. I'm going to bet you on it. So every pick you hit is $10. Every pick you don't hit is $10 to the house. And then we're going to square up at the end of it. So we're going to bring him on. We're going to go really quick through his mock draft. I want to see what your thoughts are. I know that he has Shedeur at 21. I want to see what your thoughts are.
The only reason that matters is because that's my team. He becomes a Steeler.
So let's bring in Nico Caceres. All right, so we have Nico Caceres, former quarterback at Catholic University, all conference. Guy used to throw for 800 yards a game. But he calls me. He's like, hey, man, I got this mock draft. I know I'm going to hit on a lot of these because I know my shit. And I said, all right, Nico, let's put some money to it. All right. So every pick you hit on, you get $10. Every pick you don't hit on, the house gets $10 because we got to pay for. We're trying to get Nevin a real pony, and we're trying to raise some money. So let's go through it, and then I'm gonna get some feedback from Mr. NIL, Mr. Nevin Shapiro, to challenge you on some of these picks.
Okay.
So what's your thought process putting this together? Talk to us.
Okay. So I first went with team need. That would be the first thing that I went with. The second thing would be positional grade. So because obviously defensive end and running back is rated a lot higher this draft than per se linebacker and quarterback per se. And then the last thing would be comparing mock drafts and comparing combine results to actual game film.
So you did all this research?
Yes, I did.
Interesting. All right, so walk us through it.
All right, so tight ends, easy. Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. I think it's kind of set in stone at this point. Not much to get into there. 2, that's when the draft really starts to me. Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are both generational, some would say. They say Abdul Carter is the best DN prospect since Myles Garrett. But in this case, Travis Hunter is the pick. I heard there's injury concerns with Abdul Carter, plus the fact they just signed Myles Garrett to a big deal. You need to go get help at receiver and corner. Travis Hunter is the pick at 2 for the Browns. That would leave Abdul Carter at 3 for the Giants, for all the reasons I just said, the bend, etc. Next would be the Pats need to go get offensive line help for Drake May, need to stand upright. Will Campbell's the pick here. They got him receiver help with Stephon Diggs in free agency. Go get yourself a franchise left tackle. 5 being the Jags. The pick here is Mason Graham. I think this is a trade spot, though. I think they trade out of this spot, to be honest with you.
And then you got some insight on what the Jags want to do, right?
Well, I heard through a bird that Jacksonville was really trying hard to get into the situation of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, with some rumblings of Deion coming in a year. Just starting some shit, man.
I can't wait.
You know, like,
can't wait to get my season tickets to Jacksonville.
Yeah. I really did that for you, Andy. Not so much Nico. Even though I sort of like what Nico's starting with, I'm not going to lie.
All right.
But I do think a trade with his first 5, I do think.
And then we're talking about the Browns doing something similar where they take Travis and they trade one of their, because they got a lot of picks this draft, and they trade into the top 10 pick and they go get Shedeur. Same similar type of situation.
As recent as an hour before we came on, I spoke with whoever I speak to, and they didn't expect a lot of action today, but blazing phone line activity Wednesday.
I bet. The
Blazing.
day before the draft.
Blazing.
All right, Nico, that's our insight on that, but continue.
So, like I said, I think it's a trade spot. If it's trade up, trade down, I don't think the Jags are going to hold here. I think that team needs a lot of different pieces, but if they do keep the pick, which I didn't make any trades here, but that's too hard to predict, they help the D-line. Josh Allen, you just signed him to a 5-year, $128 million deal, and you just drafted Trayvon Walker a couple years ago. Might as well go get a franchise D-tackle. Raiders would be the next pick. That's Ashton Genty. Pete Carroll, going back to his USC days with Reggie Bush, has always had a bell cow of a back. Go get Ashton Genty now. Help out Geno Smith. Help out that offensive line, etc. Jets, Tyler Warren's the pick here. Need to get Justin Fields some help. Might have some insider, just like Nevin does on this pick. So I think it's Tyler Warren. And then if you look at that Jets team, Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Tyler Warren, that's a pretty good receiver.
That's nothing to mess with right there.
Nope. 8. This is next, the Panthers. The Panthers, I think, are in a weird spot right here. You see Bryce Young's development. You just re-signed 2 offensive linemen in free agency. I think you go get him another receiver. Ted McMillan from Arizona makes a lot of sense here. Their number 1 receiver last year was Adam Thielen. I think Ted McMillan, 6'5", 4'4". I think he has all the making. The Saints, everyone says this is quarterback. I disagree. I think you ride out Derek Carr, even with the elbow injury. Spencer Rattler played all right last year. You go get Jalen Walker. Cam Jordan's getting older. That defense ranked 30th in total defense last year. You have to go get a DN. Jalen Walker is the pick here from Georgia. Andy, Nevin, I know you guys are very high on the Georgia DNs, being Jalen Williams and Michael Williams. I think Jalen Walker is the pick here. 10, the Bears. Again, you just went out in the offseason. You signed Joe Thuney from the Chiefs. You signed Jonah Jackson from the Rams at offensive line. Go get Caleb Williams now. A defense, Mike Green from Marshall, 16 and a half sacks last year. Tested out this world, number 3 athletic grade at DN from the Combine. I think that's the pick, and that rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, Nevin, what do you think?
I got two comments. I like that Tyler Warren pick for the Jets.
I've been on him.
Yeah, you have been from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I think to McMillan, the receiver, I like Matthew Golden as the number 1 receiver.
Even with Golden is going through some legal stuff, right?
Did see that, obviously. I think if he gets I think he's a stud, Matthew Golden.
Absolutely.
And rides.
Right.
That would be the only 2 things. The other comment I make, I just think 6 is real high for running back. Just real high. He's not generational type, this guy.
Nico, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I went back and forth with Matthew Golden and Ted McMillan. Matthew Golden comes out not too long after Ted McMillan here, so I can understand that argument. I just don't think that – look at Ted McMillan's production the last 2 years in that Arizona offense, 6'5". I don't think you could shy away from him. Ashton Genty is, I don't think he's generational per se, but look at every top running back that's been drafted in the last couple of years that we put to this pedigree and stature. Todd Gurley got drafted 10th. Ezekiel Elliott got drafted 4th. Bijan 8th. CMC even 8. Leonard Fournette 4. I'm not saying he's maybe to all those levels, but still the production in college, the yards after contact ability. I think he ranked number 1 in college last year, etc. I think that he's going to be valued a lot higher than a normal running back would be, and I think 6 is the pick here.
Yeah, solid rebuttal for sure. I just thought it was a little bit high for him. The other thing I would say, Jalen Walker, I do like that pick, and I do think he gets inside that top 10. So yeah, I feel pretty good with what Nico's doing.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't affect the purchase of my pony.
Hey, Nevin, the Kentucky Derby's in 2 weeks here. All right.
Oh yeah, we'll bring you on for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
So Nico calls me every Kentucky Derby, tells me who to hit on. We missed last year's pick by how much? By an inch.
A hair, a nose, half a nose.
So we'll be doing a little Kentucky Derby here on the show. We'll bring Nico on and give our insight on the ponies. And Nevin, now that you're looking for a pony, we love your insight too. All right, Nico, well, we appreciate it. We'll see how this goes. We're going to post this up on our Instagram and our platforms, and we'll check this out. Hopefully, I owe you money.
Can I say one thing?
What's that?
I see you're very high on the Michigan Wolverines. You got 4 of them.
I know. I saw
the first round.
Yep.
And I think I saw 3 on Texas, or 1, 2. No.
Penn State has 3.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. But I did catch
or 2, 3
Texas.
4 guys from Michigan. That's big representation.
Oh, yeah. Really quick. 21, Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Hold on. What are your thoughts on Shedeur?
Yeah.
So I think Nevin would be thrilled. I think Nevin would be thrilled with the pick because he is a Steelers fan at the end of the day. But
would you be thrilled?
I think Shedeur. So funny enough, there's a stat that came out that he completed 70% of his completed passes within 10 yards. I think that's a big red flag. I just think that Mike Tomlin being there, he struck out once on a quarterback in Kenny Pickett.
I think he
goes. Yep, he goes a different route this time. He tries it again. He just bolstered the receiving core, getting DK Metcalf and Cooper Kupp. I think they have to go. I don't think that's the right pick, but I think that's the way they go.
Do you think Shedeur really falls out of the top 10?
Yeah, unless there's a move.
Nico, let me ask you a question. You played the quarterback position, and Colorado brought in offensive linemen, and they blamed a lot of Shedeur's inefficiencies and sacks because he took a lot of them, held on to the ball a lot. But do you think it was more the offensive line? And I know you're not in the inner workings at Colorado, so some of that you would have to know. But just from the eyeball test, is it an offensive line issue, or does Shedeur struggle with calling protection?
Again, you alluded to it. I would have to see it. What they're going into on a scout week, what they're prepping against. But I think the main thing that he struggles with, he holds on to it a lot. If it's not a quick game or RPO or something quick, he wants for him to get blatantly open. His anticipation sometimes lacks unless he's throwing a go ball. If you look at his film, when he throws pre-snap go balls specifically, it's completed at a much higher percentage. I forgot the rate. I think it's in the 60s comparatively when he's throwing a deep crosser or something like that above 10 yards. So, I mean, I think it's a scheme fit for sure. And I think the other thing is that at times he could wait for people to get wide open.
Right. You see some of that in the film. Who would you compare him to?
I've heard you and Nevin said Chad Pennington. I think that's a very, very adequate comparison. I think one that's being overlooked is Brock Purdy.
Right.
Believe it or not. I think Brock, he has a lot of similarities to Brock Purdy's game. He's accurate with the football. He spins it. Rarely it leaves his hand not in a spiral. But I think he's going to struggle throwing the deep ball. He doesn't have the strongest arm. And is he going to be able to throw a corner and cover 2 in the NFL or whatnot, or a deep seam over the middle? I think those are going to be the things he struggles with the most, on top of the mobility concerns for him.
Hardest position in sports to scout, man.
Agreed.
You just really can't.
It's tough.
I mean, look at your.
But I think if you look at this draft as a whole, I think the reason why Shedeur falls is I think there's D-line is prime. I mean, we talked about Jalen Walker a little bit, but Michael Williams is another one. Someone that is a South Florida kid, Shamar Stewart, is a kid who could be taken very highly. He was five-star kid, ran a 4.5, edge guy. Yep. Offensive line's very high this draft. Corner's very high. Will Johnson, I mean, if you would have told me before the season Will Johnson was falling out of the top 5, we would have all been called liars.
Right.
The one guy, let me just make one comment. The one guy that I think is too low on this list, and I think he's a lot more comparable, is Amari Hampton. He's built for the NFL. He's an NFL running back, and the number you have him 29 going to Washington.
Well, there's some mocks that have running backs. There's a mock draft that has 4 running backs going in the first round. Being Ashton Genty, Amari Hampton, who you alluded to, and the 2 Ohio State guys could so easily play their way into the end of the first
Henderson
round.
Could be really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Nico, you brought a lot of insight, man. So thank you for coming on the show. I hope that I have to pay you some money. If not, you're going to pay me, kid. And I control the checks. So love you, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Love you guys. Thank you, guys.
All right,
Nico. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
All right.
Beyond the narrative. Beyond the narrative. Best in class, so pray for my peers. Slingshot bullet, it's clear. Your weak shots couldn't pierce through bulletproof ears. A martyr, a menace. I'm leading horses to drink and pulling teeth like I'm feeding the dentist. Beyond the narrative.